Have you ever stopped to think about the answers we seek every day? In a world flooded with information, it seems like we have a solution for everything. But can these answers truly fill the emptiness in our lives? Often, we focus on quick fixes while ignoring something deeper and eternal, the wisdom that comes from God. Our world is overflowing with knowledge, books, studies, courses, and expert advice on nearly everything. Modern society leads us to believe that success, wealth, and recognition are the true measures of wisdom. But are we forgetting something essential? In this race for achievements, we might be losing sight of the wisdom that truly transforms. Imagine a source of guidance that never changes, something that transcends time and culture. The wisdom of God, present in the Scriptures, offers a perspective far beyond human understanding. Books like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes reveal timeless truths that continue to inspire and guide us today. These ancient texts not only enlighten, but also illuminate our choices and paths. What makes God's wisdom so unique? Unlike the fleeting solutions the world offers, divine wisdom is solid and unchanging. It doesn't bend to trends or opinions. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus presented principles that, though challenging, are timeless. He taught that humility, peace, and justice are more valuable than any social status. Our journey today is to understand why divine wisdom is a daily necessity. It's not just about ancient theories, but a living source of practical advice for modern times. We'll explore Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Sermon on the Mount to discover how this wisdom can shape every choice and thought. And the promise is clear: whoever seeks this wisdom finds true life. The book of Proverbs is a rich collection of practical advice. Solomon, known for his wisdom, wrote that seeking wisdom is more valuable than gold or silver. He describes wisdom as something that guides our choices, protects our minds, and helps us live in harmony with others. Proverbs 3:13-14 states, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold." In Proverbs, wisdom is almost personified, crying out for our attention, ready to guide and instruct anyone who approaches. Solomon shows that God's wisdom is practical and applicable to our daily lives. Whether in family relationships, business, or how we treat others, this wisdom provides clarity. With it, we avoid mistakes that could lead to pain and regret. For example, Proverbs 15:1 teaches, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." This verse reminds us of the importance of gentleness, showing that words spoken wisely can prevent conflicts and preserve peace. Small acts guided by divine wisdom can transform even the most challenging moments. Proverbs also guides our financial decisions. Solomon warns against greed and the desire for quick wealth. Proverbs 13:11 says, "Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow." This advice emphasizes the value of honest work and consistent effort, promoting a balanced life. True wealth, according to Solomon, lies not in possessions, but in character. Proverbs 22:1 states, "A good name is more desirable than great riches." This principle teaches us that living according to God's wisdom places integrity above material gain. In essence, Proverbs offers a practical guide to life. It reminds us that seeking wisdom is essential for living peacefully, purposefully, and in harmony with others. For Solomon, wisdom is not a static achievement, but a daily pursuit. By choosing divine wisdom, we are guided by principles that draw us closer to God and away from error. The book of Ecclesiastes invites us to deeply reflect on life and its realities. Solomon, in his quest for meaning, describes the world as meaningless, emphasizing the transience of everything we know. He observes that without God's perspective, human achievements lose their eternal value. For him, true wisdom lies in understanding the greater purpose and living in light of it. Ecclesiastes is an invitation to honesty. In its verses, Solomon examines the value of pleasures, work, and possessions, concluding that none bring lasting satisfaction. He realizes that everything humanity builds is temporary. In this context, wisdom isn't just knowledge. It's knowing how to live purposefully, even amid life's uncertainties. As he declares in Ecclesiastes 3:1, there is a time for everything. This view of wisdom involves accepting that there is a time for every event. Knowing that there are moments of joy and sorrow, gain and loss, is a hallmark of wisdom. Instead of fighting against life's realities, Solomon invites us to live with discernment, trusting that God has a purpose for every season. This perspective helps us live with peace and serenity, accepting life's natural cycles. Another key point is the fear of the Lord as the foundation of true wisdom. In Ecclesiastes 12:13, Solomon states, "Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind." For him, living wisely means respecting and revering God, acknowledging that our lives are under his authority. This attitude leads to choices that honor God and benefit others. Ecclesiastes also warns against the desire for control. Recognizing that we have no power over the future invites us to depend on God rather than relying solely on our strength. Wisdom, in this sense, is an attitude of humility and trust. Solomon encourages us to accept uncertainty with faith, knowing that God sees the end from the beginning. The message of Ecclesiastes is simple yet profound. True wisdom begins with accepting our limitations and our dependence on God. By living according to this perspective, we find meaning and purpose. This wisdom guides us through times of doubt and brings peace amid life's inevitable changes. Jesus, in the Sermon on the Mount, redefines wisdom. He teaches us that being wise is not just about gaining knowledge, but living with humility, peace, and justice. His words in Matthew 5 offer a vision of life that challenges conventional values. Jesus begins with the Beatitudes, where he blesses the poor in spirit, those who mourn, and those who hunger for righteousness. This path of wisdom is countercultural, focusing on the heart rather than outward appearances. Meekness is a principle Jesus highlights, something rare in today's world, where strength is often equated with power. Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." This teaches us that true strength comes from a posture of peace and humility. For Jesus, wisdom is understanding that true power lies in being peaceful, rather than seeking retaliation or revenge. This attitude challenges our natural view of authority. Another profound aspect of Jesus' wisdom is loving others, even our enemies. He calls us to love and pray for those who persecute us, a radical teaching both then and now. This shows us that wisdom is generous and compassionate, capable of overcoming pride and seeking reconciliation. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus demonstrates that wisdom is love in action. Jesus also teaches us to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, trusting that everything else will be provided. This is wisdom that defies the impulse to hoard and control, instead placing our trust in divine provision. By focusing on what is eternal, we find peace and stability amid life's uncertainties. This principle reminds us that true wisdom values what lasts. The Sermon on the Mount also speaks about being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Jesus calls us to live in such a way that our lives reflect God's values. He reminds us that our wisdom should not be hidden, but shared. The wisdom that comes from God transforms not only our lives, but also brings hope and renewal to those around us. In summary, the wisdom of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount teaches us to live beyond the standards of this world. It calls us to a life of humility, peace, and love. It's a wisdom that shifts our focus from pride and recognition to serving, loving, and trusting. This is the heart of divine wisdom, a life guided by love and centered on God. Seeking biblical wisdom is more than understanding concepts. It's about putting these teachings into practice. In our daily lives, God's wisdom can transform the way we face challenges, make decisions, and build relationships. Applying Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Sermon on the Mount to practical actions helps us live a more balanced and fulfilling life. On a personal level, wisdom guides us to think before we speak, promoting peace instead of conflict. Proverbs 15:1 reminds us that a gentle answer turns away wrath, showing how thoughtful actions can bring harmony. When we seek God's wisdom, we choose words that build up and foster reconciliation, avoiding unnecessary confrontations. Wisdom also influences our financial decisions. By remembering that a good name is more desirable than great riches, Proverbs 22:1, we are encouraged to act with honesty and integrity. This principle teaches us to value character over material gain, making financial choices that reflect God's values. Managing our resources wisely helps us build a life of stability and peace. In relationships, biblical wisdom invites us to cultivate gentleness and compassion, as taught by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. Loving our enemies and praying for those who hurt us is a practical yet challenging application. However, this approach helps us overcome resentment and develop relationships rooted in love and forgiveness. At work and in studies, wisdom encourages us to strive for excellence without pride. Ecclesiastes reminds us that everything has its time, helping us handle frustrations and respect our limits. Biblical wisdom guides us to be diligent without sacrificing our peace and balance, valuing the journey as much as the result. These practical applications show that God's wisdom is accessible and transformative. It invites us to live in a way that reflects divine principles, promoting peace, justice, and harmony. By choosing biblical wisdom, we experience a life guided by values that bring lasting peace and purpose. Throughout this journey, we've seen that seeking divine wisdom is a continuous and intentional decision. It's not something acquired all at once, but a daily practice requiring dedication and humility. Every step toward wisdom brings us closer to a life filled with purpose and peace. The invitation is clear. Why not seek this wisdom in your life? As Solomon teaches in Proverbs and Jesus emphasizes in the Sermon on the Mount, true wisdom isn't about accumulating knowledge, but living by God's values. It transforms how we react, make decisions, and build relationships. You are called to make wise choices that reflect the peace and justice taught by Jesus. This means being intentional in every decision, big or small, allowing God's wisdom to illuminate your path. When we seek God's wisdom, we discover that our lives are guided by a force that brings clarity and serenity, even in uncertain times. Here's a challenge. Set aside a moment daily to read Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Sermon on the Mount. These sacred texts are sources of practical and spiritual wisdom. Let this practice become part of your routine, and over time, witness how divine teachings shape your thoughts and actions. Seeking the wisdom that comes from God is a choice that can transform not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. May you find in it a constant source of peace, strength, and direction, guiding you to live with purpose and integrity. As we conclude our journey through biblical wisdom, it's clear that this pursuit is a source of life and direction. God's wisdom offers a path that steers us away from deception and closer to our purpose. By choosing to seek this wisdom daily, we embrace a life of peace, integrity, and true prosperity. We are reminded that biblical wisdom is not just theory, but a living practice that shapes our decisions and attitudes. In Proverbs, Solomon teaches that those who seek wisdom find happiness and purpose. In Ecclesiastes, we are reminded that life is short, and living with purpose is what truly matters. And in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus shows us that wisdom is expressed in humility, compassion, and justice. True wisdom teaches us to live in a way that reflects divine values, positively influencing those around us. It's a wisdom that reminds us of our role as lights, spreading peace and hope. When we seek God's wisdom, our lives become a living testimony of His goodness and love. So let this pursuit not end here. May you continue growing in the wisdom that comes from God, applying these teachings to every aspect of your life. May your journey be filled with peace, purpose, and a new perspective on what truly matters. God's wisdom is an endless source of peace and guidance, available to all who seek it with an open heart.